Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltiziak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. Welcome to another episode. In episode 241, we preview the Detroit Lions Week 15 matchup with the red-hot Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. We're going to discuss what to expect from these teams, we'll hit on major storylines, and provide insights from someone who covers the Rams, as well as provide some of our own. That and more. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
This is David Montgomery, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Joining me today is Coach Jerry Angers, the former Michigan High School Coach of the Year. He was also named Coach of the Week by the Detroit Lions. He is the Scouting and Training Director for Bull Rush Sports. Coach, it seems like it's been too long because of those Thursday games, but now we're back on a weekend schedule.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? A day before the weekend, or day before Thursday anyways. But yeah, just here in Minnesota, it's awful tough talking about the Lions in Minnesota. I do have the hat on. I was getting stared at the Mall of America. And I did go in there today, look for a Christmas present for the two of you guys. And there's just no Lions stuff there. It was weird. So anyways, glad to be here.
Yeah, and thank you for making time. I know you got a lot going on over there with that bowl game, right?
Yeah, correct.
All right. Well, joining Coach and I is James Cook, the senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. He is also the sports writer of the year for community newspaper Holdings Incorporated. Good to have you here as always as well, James.
And I'm just right here in Traverse City. There's all kinds of Lions stuff around in stores here.
Okay.
Well, and speaking of that, we don't mention it, but you can actually find our show on the Traverse City Record Eagle's website as well, folks. So if you haven't checked out the Traverse City Record Eagle, check it out. You can find out our show link on there as well. We got the video episode, and check out some of James's work. He does excellent work. You don't get named Sports Writer of the Year for nothing, folks. All right, we want to let you know our show is brought to you by Roaster Jack Coffee Company. They, too, are out of Traverse City, and they've been doing this for over 25 years, roasting premium beans from small farms around the world. And the only thing better than great coffee is great coffee with a discount. If you go to roasterjack.com, use the code LIONS, you get 20% off your next order. Roaster Jack Coffee Company, be a hero, brew great coffee, and go Lions. All right, let's hit on major storylines before we get moving forward. Well, a major storyline just came out. The Lions have been informed they will be playing an international game in 2026. Destination unknown. That said, guys, we already know the destination, right, James? I mean,
I would think so.
Got to be Munich.
Yeah, you got to bust out your lederhosen.
I mean, the NFL just announced they're going back to Munich in 26 and 28. It didn't say whether this is a home game or a road game. I know that the Falcons, right, Coach, were notified they are going to have an international home game, but the Lions do have 9 home games this year. So there's a chance it could be a home game, it could be a road game, but they will be playing internationally. It's just when, where, and all the details after that. But James, you excited for the return to the international scene for him?
Yeah, of course, especially if it's in Germany. That'd be pretty sweet. Go there, hit Germany, hit Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
And St. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta love that connection.
Yes, that's awesome.
All right. Well, let's talk about a couple of major storylines on defense. First off, Coach, I tried to embody some of your spirit and go watch a little game film. Okay. And I probably watched like 1/100th of what you ever watched. So don't worry. I'm not coming for your expertise. That would take another lifetime and a half. But I want to say Derek Barnes should be getting a Christmas card from Dak Prescott. He really should, because if you see after that interception, Derek Barnes could have leveled him. Instead, he gives like a half stiff arm and runs out of bounds. I mean, we saw what happened in the Washington Lions game last year when Goff wasn't even really trying to make a move, and he got clocked hard. And so I'm expecting Derek Barnes to get a Christmas card from Dak Prescott, because Prescott could have taken a really hard hit and it would have been totally legit, James.
That would have been the second time that Barnes could have given him a pretty good hit and and didn't after that one time you whiffed on him in the end zone.
Oh yeah,
Forgot about that one. Oh my goodness. Yes.
yeah. Good call. Yeah,
Well, the Lions PR people, coach, were also quick to point out that Jack Campbell tackles and sacks, only player with at least 110 tackles and 5 sacks in the same season since one other person, Chris Spielman in '89. I mean, is there a better comparison or a person to be tried to be emulated towards?
well, I'll tell you, Spielman was just a man child. He was he was a savage dog out there. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to compare it to a Lions guy, I know Dan Campbell compared him to Kuechly today, which wow,
Yeah.
what a freaking pedestal he put on. But I think you both of their energy levels are exactly the same thing when you talk about all three of those guys when you talk about those guys, and I think that's what Campbell brings to the table. Whistle to whistle, echo to echo. I think he plays to the echo of the whistle. I don't think he stops when he first hears it. He is just a phenomenal football player that continues to get better and better. And look at the stats he's put up on. I mean, he's Campbell. I love listening to Campbell talk about him because he's always talking, he's always barking, he's always communicating. And remember at the beginning of the year when him and Shep, he called something off on Shep, or he changed the call. I don't know if you remember that with Shep, and Shep said, "Don't ever do that again." But Shep just said the dude is smart and he knows the game and he knows what's coming before the offense knows what's coming. So continue to grow, young man.
All right. Well, let's talk offense here a minute because I mean, it seems like the Lions offense isn't as good as last year, right? And we've broken this down a couple times before. Um, they do lead the NFL in points scored. They are number one in points scored this year and number three in yards. Now, we've talked about how it's more explosives, James, than just the methodical down the field. But that's something we have to consider when we kind of set the table here and look at the division. Um, a few things took shape last week. The Packers are now 9-3-1 after beating the Bears. They are facing the Broncos this week. The Bears are 9-4 after losing. They host the Browns. The Lions 8-5 at the Rams, and then the Vikings are 5-8 at the Cowboys. So let's set the expectations. Let's set the division. Let's talk about that. What you're seeing around it, James. Kind of take me through some of your thoughts.
I mean, if the Lions get things to turn their way this week, the Packers play the Broncos. The Broncos are an excellent team, having a very very good season. So nobody would be surprised if Denver wins that game. The Bears are playing the Browns. The Browns with that defense can keep them in any game. And the Bears' offensive line has struggled at times too. So those two things I think could keep the Browns in that game. And if they win, and then the Lions beat the Rams, the Lions' playoff chances go from 44% to 77% in 1 week.
Yeah, and I'm not even playing these odds yet. I understand that that's a huge increase, and it does increase because of all these things. I really think this weekend's the weekend where you can start calculating after this because you got to see how the Lions do this week. Coach will tell you you got to take care of your own games first. This is a game nobody expects the Lions to win, or at least most people don't. And so if they do win, it changes the calculus on a lot of things. And here's the other thing, you guys. The Lions are 8-5, right? They currently, just like last year, have the number one offense in points scored. The 2 years before that, they were number 5 in points scored. If they win this game or any more games this year, they will have had 4 straight winning seasons. I don't know the last time they had 4 winning seasons in a row. They've had 2 in a row a couple times. If I go back to the mid 90s, they had 3 in a row. I don't know the last time they had 4 in a row. I'm doing a quick scroll and I'm in the
50s,
60s, guys.
1950s, I would say.
Yeah. So
When they were kind of a mini dynasty in the 50s.
So I think it's, kind of remember we got a little spoiled last year with a 15-2 record. That's not normal. That's not regular. That's not repeatable. And we also know strength of schedule can be different. And so I don't care the fact that the Lions have lost a few games. And I know we got to get into the playoffs. You can't lose too many games for that. But everything's still there, James, and coach, like they can get in at the 7th seed. I know I made the comment after, Thanksgiving and stuff that, season ticket holders don't get too excited, probably not going to get a home playoff game. They could still technically win the division. Now, none of that's possible really without a win this weekend. But everything's on the table, coach, if they take care of business this weekend. And knowing what they've gone through again, that's got to give you some excitement still.
Oh, it does. And here's one of the things I'm looking at too. It's the 4 game season. We talked about it's 5 game season last week, but that steps over with. And I talked about how we go up in steps. I did that with my team where we got to get this step, and to get to this, we can't get to the top step if we don't go up all the 5 steps, and we don't want to miss a step anywhere in there because it's so much harder to get on top of that next step. If that makes sense, it's kind of cutting a step out. So, excuse me. And I think that's one of the things they do. But the step that they need to make this week is their offense has to click against a good opponent. We take Green Bay, we take the Eagles, okay, we take Green Bay again, and we take the Vikings, okay, good against good defenses. And we did not have very good showings with the offensive standpoint. Now, we didn't create turnovers from the defense standpoint in those games. We didn't have great kickoff returns from the defense. We didn't have great punts. We missed field goals. So again, we have to make sure to get through those steps, and each part of those is we have to make sure that all 3 phases are working this weekend. They have to work. But the biggest one, I think, and again, I think it's both because the offense has really struggled in 4 of our losses, 4 of our toughest losses, I think. And then the defense, the one game against Vikings, everybody struggled. And it's just, so I think all 3, right? So I think all 3 of those have to come together. And I think that's what Dan Campbell's talking about. I'll guarantee, he always comes out after a game. I challenge so and so. I'll bet he's in Goff's ear right now, and I bet he's in that offensive line ear right now, saying this game is on you. We have to outscore these guys. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it would look awful good going into the following week after that with the dub this week.
It would. And I know a lot of people were saying root for the Packers to beat the Bears because that is your easiest way into the playoffs. And right now you just have to make sure you get in, James.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you played the Bears once. The Packers need 2 losses for the Lions to catch the division. The nice thing is, in a way, them getting that tie eliminates that whole tiebreaker thing. So the tiebreaker of them losing both to the Packers doesn't even come into play. But now the Lions are in the spot where they control their path to the playoffs. If they can win, they can get in. You brought up those percentages. And so anything else you want to add on that before we move on?
I think we're good. I got a lot to move on to.
All right. Well, let's move on to that safety position because that's a big one. Brian Branch is out with the Achilles, right? We also know another person's in concussion protocol. We know the secondary's banged up. There are a lot of transactions that took place, James. You've been monitoring these really closely. A lot of them have to deal with the secondary and some tight end movement as well. So why don't you kind of get us all caught up?
Yeah, on Monday they signed Pat O'Connor to the practice squad. They signed safety DeMonte Casey to the practice squad, and they released wide receiver Andrew Armstrong from the practice squad, who had just been added about a week ago. So he hadn't been around very long. They also worked out safety Josh Johnson, among others. The following day, on Tuesday, they re-signed Arthur Millette and waived Ross Dwelly, surprisingly, from their tight end room. And then just today, Wednesday, they claimed safety Jalen Mills off of waivers and cut another tight end, Hayden Rucci. So they kept Ricci and they released Rucci, if you're keeping track.
Okay. All right. That's a lot of moving. And then let's talk about these new tight ends that they just got, James, and they're not tight ends, the safeties. Because the thing I like about this, and Coach, I want to get your input after James gives his info, but these guys have been playing football this year. These aren't guys coming in from outside the league, and I think that makes a difference.
Yeah, and these guys are both veterans. They're both, they're neither one of them are spring chickens anymore. They've both been in the NFL for a while. But they're both very good depth pieces, I think, at least, and guys who can start if you need them to, considering, you're not sure the status this week for Kirby and Harper. Kirby with a knee injury, he did practice, limited again, but Harper did not, I think, with the concussion. So Mills is listed as a safety, but actually, as of, I think, just 2 years ago, he was a starting cornerback for the New England Patriots. And played 73% of the snaps at safety last year for a pretty good New York Jets defense. So So he's a pretty solid player. Interestingly, he started playing at LSU the year after Kelvin Shepherd was drafted. So they were almost teammates at LSU. KZ is a big hitter who I think it was 2017 with Atlanta. He had 7 picks and led the NFL, which I think it was like only like a second year in the league or something. But the other thing is both of those guys can play a lot of special teams. So they both have a lot of experience there and have done it recently too. It's not like they were veteran guys that were taking special teams off recently. They both have had a lot of special teams work in recent seasons.
That's some great information. And the things that jump out to me there that I like is A, these guys have been playing football this year. They're in the system. And two, coach, they have experience, right? Look at Rocky Sin and that experience. And nothing against a first year, second year player, but these guys are going to come into a team that is in the playoff hunt and they have experience to draw on. That's going to make them that much more able to get up to speed quickly and get put in there. What is it that you think and like about these guys, and how big of a difference does that make?
Oh, it's a huge difference. Experience, especially now, especially what we got, what we're facing this week with that offense. We'll talk about that later. And I think that's which one of them was with the Eagles that won the Super Bowl. Which one? Let's say I don't have my notes because I'm on the road. But
Avante Maddox.
no, 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 no. There's another one. I thought one of the other safeties was with the Eagles. Anyways, those guys so it doesn't matter. Those guys have been around, and I think like Strickland and those guys have been around the program, but they don't have the wear on the tires on the field. And I think this is going to be huge for us, especially because they're guys that are hitters, especially the guys that we can put into the situation, especially they're not guys that were getting off the couch like we were last year or off the wherever guys were working or whatever. So this year it's like you said, both of you guys said, it's that experience is going to help out. So looking forward
Coach,
to see how.
it was
Go ahead.
Jalen Mills. He was with the Eagles for four
Yes,
or
thank
five
you.
years.
Thank you. All right,
Yeah.
Mills. Yeah, I knew there was. Yeah. So, anyways, again, names we don't know right now. It's a situation like, what's that number? Who's that now? Just like last week when number 71 was on the offensive line, I'm like, who is 71? And then I realized it's Frazier. But, anyways, the experience is going to help, and I'm sure they're excited about that part.
For sure. All right, James, give us a few updates on some of the injury stuff. I know we won't know, definitive stuff for a while, but hey, there's some guys coming back and getting some practice, and that could mean some good news down the road.
Yeah, the Lions only had 3 guys who did not practice, and that was Alex Anzalone, who had an illness. So I'm going to assume he'll be back. Um, Typically, I mean, this is early enough in the week that I would think that he'd be good to go on Sunday. Brian Branch with Achilles, I'm not even sure why the Lions had to list him on the injury report, other than the fact that they haven't put him on injured reserve technically yet,
That's
which
probably
is
the reason, yeah.
which is odd. So I guess they probably had to put him on the injury report. And Taylor Decker was on the injury report with shoulder, but Wednesday's his normal rest day. So I'm not sure that that's a big deal either. Limited guys were Awashika, Harper, Joseph, Mahogany, Raymond, Vaki, and Shane Zylstra, who Dan Campbell indicated in his press conference Wednesday. A pretty good chance that Zylstra plays unless he has a setback in practice this week.
All right. Well, there's some good news right there. The
Yeah.
Rams have a handful of guys not practicing, James.
Yeah, the Rams, 2 of their wide receivers, Tutu Atwell, who hasn't been playing for a while. He's been on injured reserve, but he's had his 21-day window open, but he hasn't been activated from injured reserve yet. He did not practice today. And the guy who was added to the injury report for them is Devontae Adams with a hamstring injury who did not practice today. That could also be a veteran rest day
Sure.
for like Decker, and they have to put what an injury could be or whatever. Darius Williams practiced in full for them. He missed last week with what they referred to as a tibia injury and didn't play, but they didn't say that it's a broken leg. But I don't know what a tibia injury that's not a broken leg is, unless it's just a severe bone bruise or something.
Yeah. Probably.
And then linebacker Byron Young was added to the injury report, but just said knee, and it did not add any practice designation whatsoever. Didn't say whether he was limited, full, DNP, nothing. He was just on there, knee.
Okay. Well, things to monitor throughout the week and see what takes shape. All right. Well, let's turn to the game at hand, guys. Here's my interview with Darren Haynes, a sports anchor and sports reporter at CBS LA in Los Angeles. Joining me today is Darren Haynes, not only a sports anchor and reporter at the CBS affiliate out of Los Angeles, but also a Wayne State graduate. Plus, some of you may remember him from his stops in Alpena and Lansing during his early years in the business. Darren, thank you so much for making the time to talk Lions and Rams football with me today.
Yeah, anytime. I'm looking forward to it. My boy and teammate Joyke Bell, a Lion running back. We were talking about this earlier today. He wants me to fly up for his restaurant in downtown Detroit. I couldn't make it though. I told him to put me on a private jet. He said no.
Nice. Well, I may have to stop in and check out his restaurant. That sounds like a great place to go to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Rams a minute. They're 10-3. They moved into the first place of the NFC seeding this past weekend. They've got one of the top point differentials in the NFL. It was plus 152. I know it's gone up since then. They've got a top 5 offense in points scored, one of the 2 or 3 best defenses in points allowed. Stafford's having maybe one of the best seasons of his career, and that is saying something that Lions fans can understand. He's got 35 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. The Rams won the division last year, but they look like they're playing at an even better rate or level this year. So let's go beyond all these numbers I threw out. You see the team on a regular basis. Give me an overview of what this Rams team looks like.
This is the best way I can explain it. So I had the luxury of following Tom Brady in New England. And I used to call his Patriots offense a well-oiled machine. And this Rams team this year, the way Matthew Stafford is playing and all the weapons he has around him, when they're playing at the top of their game, I feel like they're unstoppable. I don't feel like there's a team out there that can beat them. When you're mentioning all those numbers, I mean, think about the weapons that Matthew Stafford has as far as in Puka Nacua, over 1,000 receiving yards. You have Devontae Adams. He leads the league in touchdown receptions. And then I'm sure I haven't even talked about the running game. I mean, Kyron Williams was always really good, but then, Blake Corum, guy out of Michigan, he has now stepped up his game, getting touchdowns in multiple games. So when you look at this offense, I look at it right now like the New England Patriots when they're winning a whole bunch of games. It's like a well-oiled machine, and they are so hard to stop when they're at the top of their game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at them and they feel that way about them. Some people have said they are the one, maybe elite team in the NFL at this point. What's been the biggest difference from last year to this year? I know you've mentioned some of the weapons, and is Stafford doing something differently?
So this is like my theory. It's not even a theory. I mean, you can see it pretty much out there. We knew that Puka Nacua was going to be Puka Nacua as a great receiver. But the thing that's different between the previous years and this year, because when Cooper Kupp was here, he had 2 small receivers able to do some things. Devontae Adams has given them that end zone threat, that guy they can throw it up to, the guy that like if he's not open, let me just throw the ball to him because it's probably like a 75% chance he's going to catch the ball. So I think that's probably the biggest difference between last year and this year with Matthew Stafford and why he's been more successful, why he's thrown to Devontae Adams for 14 touchdowns, why Devontae Adams leads the league in touchdown receptions. They didn't have that in the past, so you have that threat. Now, if you look at the offensive, look at the running game, most people who know football, if you establish the run, it opens up the pass. Kyron Williams has been very dominant, and then you have Blake Corum stepping. Both of those guys are stepping their game up. I mean, they both balled out against Arizona. When you establish the run, it makes life a lot easier for Matthew Stafford. So Stafford, that's why he's playing at an MVP level, because everything is working in his favor right now. He has the weapons he needs, and the offense and the way they're working continuity-wise is also working.
All right. And, we all know from his days in Detroit, he loves throwing those jump balls when he's got a great target to get to.
I think probably the best receiver since probably Megatron is Devontae Adams. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Well, those guys are definitely helping Stafford elevate his game, and as is that running game, because we've seen it. Whenever Stafford's had a good running game, even in Detroit when he had Reggie Bush, his numbers were better. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum averaging 4.9, 5-point yards a carry. And it looks like, from what I'm hearing, the Rams have gotten more creative with some of their play calling by going with more big tight end sets to kind of help the running game. Is that kind of changing some of the play calling from past years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had some injuries to one of their tight ends, but they're at one point they're using like 3 tight ends, and
right.
That's the thing with Sean McVay. And I had the luxury of even working with him when he was in DC, when he was just this young kid. And he always seems to find some new, unique type of twist to make things a little bit differently. And having those tight ends in the ball game to use them in totally different ways has put defenses in positions where they've never been in before. I mean, it's worked out to their advantage. Sean McVay, and you guys know, I mean, we see it on national TV. The brain that guy has, um, who knows what he's going to think of next? When you think he's out of like ingredients to bake a cake, next thing you know, he's making a cake out of like onions and ginger. I don't know, but yeah, he can come up with some talent, some amazing ways to take advantage of a defense in so many creative ways, which you're mentioning before with the tight ends.
All right. Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the offense, but that's not the only part that's excelling right now for the Rams, which is makes this team that much scarier, right? That they've given up a decent amount of yards, but they're pretty stingy when it comes to giving up points.
Hmm.
Byron Young, Jared Verse, a couple of linebackers, they just seem to be
Yeah.
wreaking havoc all over the field, making plays. Talk to me about this defense as a whole. Where are their strengths? What are they doing well? What are you seeing out of them?
Can I drug Joik Bell again? Even though, because it's my best
Bring them
friend.
up.
I had many years with the Lions. One of the things we hated the most was when we had to do our reads and okay, who's going to be that linebacker blitzing, or maybe we have to try to block some guy who's coming in free at our quarterback. And I just can't imagine like Young and Verse coming at the quarterback every single play. Those guys are two absolutely dominant players. I mean, Jared Verse is a top 10 guy in regards to like, you know, his pass rush and kind of wrecking havoc in the backfield for quarterbacks. When I watch this team play, they make it very, very hard for teams to do anything. And I have to give this little twist. It's the same as the offense because there are times where other teams can take advantage of it. When this team, or should I say the defense, is playing the way they should be playing, they are really tough to beat. Jared Verse just mentioned a couple weeks ago, and he's like, dude, I'm having so much fun right now. I'm having so much fun. And when you have a person, or should I say a team, playing and having fun and not having to think about it. Because when you think, you have that hesitation. When you're playing at a level where you don't have to really think and you just play and have fun, that's a dangerous place to be if you're the opposing team.
Yes, it is. And as I said, this seems to be like what some people are saying, the one truly elite team in the NFC, if not the NFL. You've kind of hit on many strengths of this team. Is there a weakness to this team or an area that they might be most vulnerable?
It's a great question. That is a great question because I'm like, okay, could Matthew Stafford maybe have some interceptions? But I mean, the guy has only thrown like what, two picks in like like a month and 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's tough. Probably the only weakness, and I'm making this up because I don't know. They lost to the 49ers, barely lost to them. They lost to the Eagles, barely lost to them. It was like a blocked field goal or something like that. Um, the only other loss they had was the Carolina Panthers, and that was one of those teams where Carolina is obviously a lot better than they were in the past, but that's
Yep.
still one of those teams they should have never lost to. And I'm wondering if it was just one of those like mental games where maybe they were looking ahead to their next opponent, where they remember, they call them the trap game. So
Yep.
I'm just making this up. I'm not saying this is what they're saying because obviously they're not going to tell us that they're thinking about the Lions before, I mean, they're thinking about Arizona before uh, playing Carolina. But but maybe that may be one of their weaknesses at that point, looking ahead. But maybe not because the Arizona Cardinals they're not a good team at all. They stink, and they literally went from losing to the Carolina Panthers to just destroying Arizona. And I hope I get this right. I don't remember the exact date, but they had three plus rushing touchdowns, three plus passing rushing touchdowns in an away game since I guess at the 40 at San Francisco. It was like 19 like 56 or 50. It was in the 50s.
Wow.
So their turnaround game from losing to Carolina was really good. That's the only weakness I can think, but they probably cleared it all up.
All right. Well, then let's get to this contest. If the Rams are going to win this contest, what do they have
Mhm.
to do effectively that you've seen them do effectively in their victories this year?
Well, obviously establish the running game. Because when they establish that running game, it's going to open up the passing game, like I mentioned before. That offense has to click, and they have to be dominant like they always are in the first quarter. They always so the good thing about the Rams is they punch teams in the mouth right away at the very beginning. And if they can do that, that's a lot of times where they can pull out the win. Establish that momentum early, set the tone early. I think if the Lions fall behind in this first quarter, I'm not going to say it's going to be a long night, but you put the Rams in a position where now they can control things. And a lot of ways they've won the game is by winning the first quarter. I don't know the exact stats, but I think they're one of the, if the not the best team in the first quarter in regards to outscoring their opponent. So that's one thing that I think the Rams probably need to do against the Lions is to really start off hot and have their foot on the pedal right away.
All right. Well, that's something the Lions have had to deal with a lot this season where they
Yeah.
haven't been able to dictate the games. They've had to play from behind in a number of contests. And so, other than avoiding, giving up too many points early in this game, what do you think the Lions need to do if they're going to beat the Rams in this game?
I mean, you guys got a nice 1-2 punch in the running game. Like I admire Gibbs so much the way he can run the rock. You guys are coming off a huge win, and I'm saying huge just the way you guys won that game against the Cowboys. If you can get Gibbs going, Montgomery, if you guys can really get that running game going to help Jared Goff out, because even though Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford, they may not admit it, they probably will never ever say it, but nobody can tell me that Jared Goff doesn't want to pay back the Rams and Matthew Stafford doesn't want to pay back the Lions. Trust me, they're both competitors. They want to do it. Am I right? Raise your hand if I'm right.
Hey, I'll tell you this. I was at the Lions Rams wild card game. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I have never seen Ford Field like that. It'll probably be a long time before Ford Field's ever like that again. I can't say a long time. You never know. But that was a very incredible, unique experience. And everything was on the line in that game.
Yeah.
And so they are big competitors. And that meant everything to the fans, to the team.
Yep.
And Dan Campbell said at the end of that, right, you're good enough for Detroit, Jared Goff. And that was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. So when you have that particular matchup, I think, how good the offense is for the Rams. The Lions offense is pretty damn good as well. But they're going to have to go against a good defense. If anything, the Lions defense is going to have to step up their game. They're going to have to raise their level of game up. They haven't been as successful as the Rams defense, but that's one weakness the Lions will have to step up, is to try to find some way to contain and decrease the points the Rams can put on the board when they go against each other.
All right. Well, is there anything that anybody outside the LA area should know about the team or the coaching staff that might give a little insight to this club that's not widely known?
Man, that's a great question. Gosh, I wish I could remember the song that they were playing in the locker room. There was some weird song that they were playing in the locker room. This is a team just having so much. It was like it wasn't like a Taylor Swift song, but I wish I could remember who it was. But it was a song that after you win, you don't play that in the locker room unless you're just really just having that type of fun. But this is a team that is just playing at a high level, and they're enjoying playing at that level. And this Rams team knows they're good. They are confident. They know they are good. And they know they've also lost to the Lions in back-to-back games. And they also know they love Matthew Stafford to death. Matthew Stafford has brought so much amazing things to this particular city and this team. And if there's one group of players that will love to help Matthew Stafford get that one last payback punch on the team that he used to play for, that's his Rams team right now.
All right. Well, Darren, before I get you out of here, I got to ask, because I don't actually know the name. What is the name of Joy Bell's restaurant in downtown?
Oh, shoot. He told I.
Oh, I did not mean to catch you off guard on this one.
How much time do I have? Can I get 20 seconds?
Oh, you totally can.
Here, give me a countdown. 20 seconds.
You know what? I could probably find it.
I'm gonna
beat
you to it.
Parlay Detroit.
Yes,
that's
it. That's it.
All right.
I guess they're celebrating the year anniversary, and Joy called me up, and they're gonna celebrate it on New Year's Eve, and he was like, "Hey, can you fly out to host the 1 year anniversary?" And I'm like, "Joy, like it's less than a month away. Like I have to host a Rose Parade out here, and then go to the Rose Bowl for Indiana, whoever wins between Oklahoma and Alabama." And I was like, the only way I can get there is, man, if you put me on a private jet. Well, it's funny. Joik was like, hey, I may know a guy. So I'm waiting for that call back right now.
That's awesome. And then I guess another unexpected but last question is, do you still root for the Lions? Did you grow up rooting for them, being a Wayne State guy and everything?
So here's my Lions background. Well, just more career. So long story short, I grew up a Giants fan. I can't stand the New York Giants anymore. I can care less about them. But
Okay.
as you work in different cities, you cheer for the team that you cover.
Yep.
Now the Lions are a little bit different. One, yes, because Bell played for him, Joik Bell played for him. But Dan Orlowski and I, we went back to like Pop Warner days, high school days, having wars against each other. Dan Orlowski's my dude. I know Dan ran out of the back of the end zone back in the day, but Dan Orlowski was a quarterback in Detroit, and I used to go
Yep.
and visit him when he played for him. So I have a different connection with it's with the Lions that's different than any other team because guys that I played with or played against played
Yep.
for the Lions.
Very cool. That's awesome. I love
And if
sharing that history.
and if you ever talk to Darren Orlowski, tell him I will whoop his butt in high school if we ever played against each other again. Make sure you tell him that. Shelton High School, they're going down. Amity High School all day, every day. I hope matter of fact, tag Dan Orlowski in this and let him know that I said that.
I will tag him and we will make sure we do not edit this part out. So if he wants to check it out, he can hear your words.
My man, my man.
All right. Darren, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today about Lions Rams. Should be in a very exciting game coming up this weekend.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Great information from Darren there, you guys. Thank you to him for all his insights. And also, I got to give a shout out to my friend David Solano because he's the one that connected us. Got a big thank you to David for helping get that interview put together. And I just got to go back to something that Darren talked about, and that was Joik Bell, you guys. He's got a restaurant downtown. I'm going to check that out at some point. But you guys know which other former Lions running back has a restaurant in the area?
Running back is number 20.
It is number 20.
Lem Barney wasn't around. Billy Sims, right?
Billy Sims Barbecue in Troy, guys. He's got a
Nice.
restaurant there. It's been there a while and got some cool information. Billy is going to be there in person later this month. I'm going to put the graphic up on the screen here. The Lions have one more home game versus Pittsburgh on December 21st. We want to help promote that. Billy will be at his restaurant in Troy for Customer Appreciation Day. He's going to be there for 2 days, Saturday the 20th from 11 to 5 and Sunday the 21st, game day, 11 to 3. Now, Lions have a game at 4:30 that day or 4:25. So you can check it out, get there before the Lions game. He's going to be signing personal items. He'll have limited merchandise as well. Plus, they're saying you can get one free autograph photo per meal. So again, we got that graphic up there. We'll put this out on socials. So if you're not listening, maybe some of your friends will see it. We are also going to be there on Sunday before the Lions game. So stop on by, say hello, grab a meal. And I've had it on my radar for a while, Coach, to get out to this restaurant. I'm excited about us going there, and I'm looking forward to getting a meal.
Oh, for sure. That's totally awesome. Can you ask, do you think he can reenact that hurdle that he had with the cleat to the face? I can't remember exactly who that was, but if he,
The
I
karate
mean,
kick to the Houston game.
it was, yeah. And actually, if you talk to me before that and he says he's going to reenact it, I'm coming down for sure. Just to see Billy, because I want to see him do that. That was unbelievable. So that's awesome that he's doing that for his restaurant for the people.
So, all right. Well, let's move on to see what we're thinking about with the Rams. What do we make out of this team so far? I mean, they're the one team that a lot of people are saying are maybe the most elite team in the NFL. James, offense is very efficient. Defense is very stringent. What are you seeing out of the Rams so far this year?
Yeah, they're a pretty darn complete team for this part of this late in the season. Fairly healthy in NFL terms. So, they don't have a lot of guys that are under the reserve. They don't have, a whole lot of guys that are out for the season. So they're pretty darn healthy for this point in the season, which is usually a pretty big factor as who can make a playoff run too. They're fourth in the league in points scored, third in the league in points allowed. They're second overall in DVOA, one of Jerry's favorite stats. They're first in offensive DVOA and third in defensive DVOA. In the offensive, they're first in pass and first in run. But the one weakness they have is that they are 24th in special teams DVOA. They lost the 49ers and Eagles games, both in close games where they had kicks blocked. They actually had two blocked against in the Eagles game. But since they switched from Joshua Carty to 240-pound Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker, as they call him,
Yes.
he has been perfect. He is 3 for 3 field goals and 23 for 23 extra points. So they're one of the most complete teams in the NFL right now. A lot of people are talking about them as a Super Bowl favorite at this point. And Matthew Stafford, who are all very very familiar with, leads the NFL in passing touchdowns with 35, and it's by quite a bit. Second place is 26, which is Jared Goff, conveniently tied with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and Stafford is having arguably the best season of his entire NFL career. I don't know if it's arguably. I mean, he is up there because while he's thrown more touchdown passes, and he could still get to that number, he is on a pace to throw some of the lower interception numbers he's ever thrown in a season. He's currently got the highest quarterback rating. Coach, just what are we making out of this team so far? I mean, they seem to be about as strong as those numbers James gave us show. I mean, again, anybody can win or lose on any week. We saw that with Carolina against them, but they look like the contender, the one that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, you watch them and you really, when you watch them, you get scared. I mean, I shouldn't say scared, but you look at him and go, wow. You go to Stafford. He's just, he threw two interceptions 2 weeks ago and they lost the game, right? And he had a fumble. Okay, he only had two interceptions at that point going into that game with all those touchdowns. You got Puka, who's arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, and it's arguably for everybody. We have our opinion. All the Rams, everybody else has got their opinion. And the guy's not just an X receiver, but he runs slot. He gets probably half of his passes or vice versa. Excuse me, from the slot. And then you got Adams, who's just a touchdown machine when you get down the end zone, because the guy runs probably literally, and I will probably agree with this one with a lot of people. He's probably has the best feet for separation in a short distance than anybody, and that's why he's destroying people on the goal line. I mean, the guy's just got shaken. He's always had it, and he's rebirthed, man. He was with LA, then he went over with Rodgers and got killed on the one screenplay, and then he's back to getting here. So, so offensively, you got that. The offensive line does a great job. You got a two-headed monster at the running back. Two good backs. Williams is really good. The other one's coming into his own, Corum. And again, they don't compare to our two backs. If anybody tries to do that, I'll argue that one until I'm blue in the face. But offensively, they're just unbelievable. And then when you want to talk about defense, the other thing too, I want to talk. Let me touch base on the offense real quick. 13P, dude.
Yeah.
13. Oh, I
We're
love
loving
13.
that.
I love 13P. So they're running it more than the average. I don't remember the exact numbers. The average is unbelievable. They're throwing out of it. They put you in such a predicament with three tight ends on the field, and I think they're having success with that against nickel teams. I don't think they can have that success with us. I think we're gonna challenge them as much on that because of our base personnel. So this is gonna be a great matchup. It's gonna be a great matchup from that. So, but anyway, so offensively, and then the no play action passes. He just drops back and throws the ball. They're ahead of everybody on that. The numbers speak for themselves, guys. They are I think, the most complete offensive team in the NFL right now, only because they've done it for almost every game all season. We'll talk about it after the Sunday game.
Yes, we will. And, so what do we expect out of the Rams coming up against the Lions? Well, I think they want to try and get their running game going, right? Because a couple of things. Stafford's always done better when he's been able to run the football, or there's a running game in the football game.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I got you.
and I think if they get that running game going, that also helps him take shots down the field, because I fully expect him to take shots down the field. I think those are two things the Rams are going to try and do on offense, because that's been their MO all season. They will try that 13P potentially, but like you said, our defense will match up maybe better than some others have against that. But James, the emergence of Blake Corum is really helping them in the way that the Lions do things on the running game. What are you expecting out of the Rams against the Lions?
Yeah, interestingly on the 13P thing is that they play a lot of 13, they play a pretty good amount of 11, and they don't play much 12.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's like not in between.
Yeah.
So it's odd. But yeah, yeah, former Michigan back Blake Corum. I think a lot of Michigan fans are familiar with him. Obviously, been eating into Kyron Williams' work. He's got over 500 yards and 4 TDs this year, so he's been a pretty good complimentary back to them after he didn't see a whole lot of work last year as a rookie.
Right.
Um, Last year, Kyron was one of the most utilized running backs in the NFL. He played 87% of their snaps, which is almost unheard of in today's NFL
Yeah.
for running back to play that much. He was 82 the year before. So, I think they've been making a pretty good effort to reduce his workload. Over the first 6 weeks, Corum averaged 5.3 touches a game. Since week 7, that's been up to 10.3. Williams was averaging 18.8 the first 6 games and is down to 15.6 since then. And his snap share is only 69% this year, which is a big reduction from last year. I mean, they invested some money in him with a big contract extension, so they want to make sure he makes it through that contract. And Corum has been helping them do that.
And their numbers are both good. I mean, Kyron Williams is averaging 4.9 a carry, and Blake's at 5.4. So they got two guys that are producing quite a bit.
Yeah. The other thing too about that 12P, 11P, 13P thing, he just started going to this 13P, I can't remember exact amount of games back where he really raised his effort to doing that. McVay is one of those supposedly genius offensive coordinators, which you can't argue about that. But I think he works on things. I think he tries to get people set up on things. I think when it doesn't go well in one game, or he tweaks it and adds to it on the next game. Maybe he's going to come out in just 12 against us. Just he. So and the thing about you guys, when he goes 13P as many times he does in those situations, how many times do you have Adams, and is he using that to rest Adams so that they can use Adams down on the goal line? It's a great ploy, and it's a great job because you have to get the nice. And again, I'm going to go back to us. We run base defense more than anybody, and so this is going to be a mano game, and we're going to find out how well those tight ends can block as well as go out for pass coverage against our backs, against our backers.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get tested against their linebackers because I think
Yep.
they're going to try and put pressure on us in some ways the way the Philadelphia Eagles did, James. I think they're going to try and put pressure on that offensive line and see if they can find cracks in it and get Goff on pressure.
Yeah, and they've been pretty good. They were excellent last year in getting pressure there, just with their front four, kind of their front five. They use guys at linebackers that are the end linebackers that are basically defensive ends, small defensive ends or big linebackers, whatever you want to call them. So, guys like Byron Young, who has been great this season, he has 11 sacks. Jared Verse is another guy who they list as a linebacker, but I mean, really, if he played for the Lions, he'd be a defensive end. He has 6 sacks this season. He's been pretty great. But they do have corners who can turn the ball over too. Kobe Durant and Emmanuel Forbes each have 3 picks. One of their other starting corners is maybe questionable for this game, maybe not with Williams, but they're fairly deep in the secondary as well. So their defense kind of comes at you in waves. They have multiple defensive linemen behind those guys who can come in and provide some pressure too.
Yeah. Well, off of that too, it's the reason it's a 3-4 base concept with verse and Young are always opposite of each other.
Mhm.
What's the nose tackle's name? The guy is a freak, guys. I think he's
Kobe
number
Turner?
one. No,
Puna
Puno.
Ford.
Yeah,
Oh,
Puna
Ford.
Ford. Yeah.
That dude is those, and so those guys are the ones we have to attack. We have to move, and they're going to attack our center. They're going to come at our center, and that's what determines all that. And then you got Verse, you can play games, and you got Frisk, it was his teammate, they moved basically him into he looks like a tackle concept, but he's really their end concept, and they're just use those extra backers. Coming off that too is if I think I put in the notes for you guys that look at their run defense between the tackles is really bad, Now, I shouldn't say really bad, but not very good, where their run defense outside of the tackles is really, really good. That's because of the skilled linebacker DN type guys, like James was just talking about with Verse. So that's why we love to block dual, which double the nose, double fist, climb the backer. This is going to be really interesting, especially if they're going to widen those guys out. And I used to call it a ghost nine, where how we line Hutch way outside, you guys, and
Yep.
you're all like, what the heck's he doing all the way out there? Well, I hope that's what they do with Verse with us, because I think we'll duel them inside and double that really good nose tackle and try to climb to the backers from that situation. So, but yeah, that's kind of why they're freaking good. I mean, that
Yeah.
D line is good. We know, and young. So,
You know what else is good, Coach?
oh,
Roaster Jack Coffee. And we'll let you know this episode is brought to you by Roaster Jack Coffee out of Traverse City. They've been doing this for over 25 years, folks. If you use the code LIONS, you will get 20% off your next order. Makes a great holiday gift, too. We are in that season. Pick it up, make it a stocking stuffer. All right. Well, your guest might not be expecting that, but let's see what we're going to expect out of the Lions here. I think a big thing is going to be what we saw last week against Dak. We need to get pressure on Stafford. I think that's going to be big. If you remember the last time we played them, Stafford was getting rid of the ball so fast because they didn't have a choice, because we were actually getting some pressure. But we haven't consistently got pressure this year. Need to see it, a recap or a replay of what happened in the Dallas game. James, what do you got on that? What are you thinking about that?
Well, I mean, yeah, they got to get some pressure on Stafford. Otherwise, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams are going to eat him up. I mean, when they played him, 2 years ago, Adams and Cooper Kupp just both of them had monster games, I think. And so they need to really put some pressure on him to try to keep some of those plays from developing to those guys. As far as the Lions, the tight end position for them is kind of completely in flux. Dwelly being released, Laporta and Brock Wright are both done. You got Hayden Rucci was let go. That leaves Anthony Firkser as technically the only guy on the 53-man roster right now who plays tight end, because as of when we're recording this, Shane Zylstra hasn't been activated from injured reserve yet, but I think that's going to happen. And then they have Zach Horton and Giovanni Ricci, the other Chi on the at tight end on the practice squad. So, and they also had their tight ends coach Tyler Roll, who took an offensive coordinator job at Iowa State, but he said he's going to keep
he's still
on with the Lions through the regular season and playoffs.
For sure. And it was Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, because they didn't have Devontae
yes.
Adams back then, but I know what you meant on that one, James.
Yeah.
I know what you meant. Yeah, I mean, that secondary coach, your secondary is only as good as your front seven, right? And we've seen it all year. And so this front seven's got to get home, got to limit the running game, which is what, everybody always says, try and make a team one-dimensional. It sounds like repetition and boringness, but it works. What's your optimism on the Lions to be able to get pressure on Stafford, or what are you expecting out of the defense?
I think we're still going to bring some extra bodies. I think we're going to do some of those zone pressures where we're going to drop ends into coverage just because of their quick game situation they have. The other thing to think about too is last week we did a lot of those double A gap or straight A gap blitz, or setup looks like double A gap. We disguised our coverage as well. I don't think we'll have any blown coverages like we did last week. I don't think anybody's going to try to jump a route, not with those guys. We can't give up those explosives to them. They're going to get their yards. I don't care, if they can have 10 receptions for 147 yards, but they don't have any touchdowns. It doesn't matter. I mean, those are the things that we got to do. The other thing I'm going back and forth. James talked about when their offensive linemen down. Are we going to do, overload blitzes off the edge because of that guy? Or are we going to crush the middle, do that A gap blitz up the middle? One reason, and I was just thinking about it, we may do that with Campbell, and I'm going to tell you why I believe it. Because Jared Goff, Stafford goes under center without a play action pass more than anybody in the NFL. So what I'm saying is he comes out from under center and he goes right back into his goes right back into his pass drop without faking the handle, a play action pass. So that puts him with his back to the line of scrimmage without us not worrying about a run play to pass play. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Okay, so I was just thinking about that. So Sheps may be looking at that because I know last week we did a lot of blitzes that were run blitzes that turned into pressure blitzes. Okay, we did a lot more than people, and I think I looked at it and I saw a lot of whether it was a first down or second and short or things like that. So I think Shep's going to dial some of those up and try to get Stafford off his spot, try to bang him a few times and see if we can get some turnovers like a couple weeks ago.
All right. Well, offensively, I think David Montgomery's going to be pivotal in this game because they're going to have to pick up some blitzes, and Montgomery's got a little bit bigger size to do some of that. And I know both guys can run between the tackles, which is good because you're going to need both of them to do that. But also, like we said, if we get that running game going, it sets up the play action pass. And we saw that so well against Dallas, James. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to throw to Gibbs as much as they were doing, just even with St. Brown being 10 days healthier after that ankle, just realizing you need to use every weapon you have on the field, especially with Laporta out and, whatnot. You're going to need to, slow these linebackers down and put a linebacker on Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, I think it would be great if you see the Lions put some 13 out there with these blocking tight ends that they kind of have. Roll Jared Goff a little bit behind that tight end wall and then send Jamo deep. Because we all know his speed. So I think that would be great. I saw one thing. It was with next gen stats of Jamison Williams is number one in average miles per hour on routes. This is all routes, not just
Wow.
not just going deep. 15.45 miles per hour on all routes. And he's got 75 routes that are 18 miles or more and 11 more that are 20 miles or more an hour.
Well, we saw the one that
running
was
on
like
his
a
own.
go route and he stopped on a dime and turned around. And yeah,
That
maybe
was-
they could do the opposite, James. They could do the run and shoot and just spread everybody out and say who you want to cover, JMO, Gibbs,
That that
St. Brown,
that's that
Tesla.
stop route that he ran.
Yeah.
They're going to use that to set up something where it's just a complete go route.
No, it's stop and go.
Yep.
Stop and
Hey,
go. It's a
that
double
used to
move.
be a convenience store when
hmm
I was a kid.
Stop and go. Yes, that's what it is. And we'll just call it convenience store route.
I
hmm
like it. We'll run the convenience store route.
Yeah. Yeah.
James, anything else you got out of the Lions that you're expecting out of them?
Well, like Jerry was saying, if they run that 13 personnel, the linebackers are going to come into play even more. And the Lions' the starting three linebackers that they have, are first in the NFL in sacks with 11 and a half. They're first in the NFL in run stops with 73 this season. They're third in the league in combined tackle for losses and no gain with 28, and they're third in the league in total pressures with 49. So that's what they're going to be running into if they run the 13 personnel.
And I believe first in the league on non-missed tackles. They don't miss tackles, and I think, that's the battle. If they come out 13, if they do that, you guys will probably hear me yelling from Minnesota when they line up in 13 and our backers are coming downhill. That's just gonna be a fun one to watch.
Yeah. Yep. And I think the other thing I really want to watch is who we're going to have in that secondary, right?
Mhm.
We're expecting DJ Reed and Amik Robertson to be the two defensive backs. We're expecting Avante Maddox to probably play a vital role in the secondary, Rocky Ya-Sin as well. The question will be, do we have Thomas Harper? Will Kirby Joseph be out there? I don't think, I'm not that optimistic on Kirby, but you don't know if and when he's going to play this season. And then we just brought some other guys in as well. And we've got some guys on the practice squad. But that secondary, we saw what they did against, was it Tampa Bay earlier in the year when we had like 4 out of 5 guys that weren't starters out there. And they put up a pretty incredible performance. I'm hoping these guys, some of them maybe from that group, some not, can put it together and hold things together and play well and maybe just get a turnover.
Yeah, I think, off of that, Maddox is gonna be on the field, you guys. He
Yeah.
played too well last week. My gut feeling, and I'm gonna throw this out and see what you think. Rock and Reed at corners, Meek at slot because of how many times Puka runs slot. We just talked about that. I think they're gonna be switching back and forth in that situation. And then I think the other reason I think Maddox, because Maddox can be that down in the box guy against that 13P, which what Branch would have been doing before, or maybe one of the other guys. But Maddox just played really well for that. And again, I think Harper, well, we all know Harper and Joseph's a huge thing, and Harper's even bigger because that's one of the going to determine on that. So, but I just think I see them putting a Meek on Puku just because he's so good in the slot, and they want to nullify that as much as possible. So,
Yeah, I like that. And then, Coach, yeah, I can't believe I didn't mention Avante Maddox. I fully expect him heavily involved. I mean, he
yes.
played lights out when he came in there. So, all right, James, Hank Fraley has some news to share. It's always interesting when Hank talks.
Yeah, he talked a lot about Frank Ragnow and completely left the door open that there was a possibility of Frank Ragnow playing next year. So his quote was he quote still has plenty in him still play and that door is open was some of the quotes from Hank Fraley and Frank Ragnow is actually only 29 years old, which in offensive line years is fairly young. I mean, obviously he's got those foot problems that he had early in his career and now he's got the hamstring that he's got to bounce back from. But that could be a possibility for next year.
I think the interesting thing is that's the first time we've heard anybody in the clubhouse talk about it as even an option because the statement that got put out almost seemed like a finality type thing. And so, hey,
Mhm.
we'll see what happens. And Dan Miller's asked that question and pondered that as well as, well, what could it look like for next year? And hey, maybe a whole year of healing and stuff could make a difference. I still think even if he comes back, the Lions are already investing to bring more pieces in because it's not a long-term solution. It would be a immediate huge solution, but also you always have to continue to plan for what's even going forward. But we would welcome that idea back.
Yeah, I don't think it would change their draft or free agency plans at all. Like if he comes back and plays, it's like great, but we're not going to count on it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, James, get us to the ref report. We got that this week.
They got Alan Eck, the crew that they had once last season for that late Lions Bears game. Chicago was whistled for 8 penalties in that game to 6 for the Lions. They had him in the first Lions Packers game in 23. That was his first year as a crew chief. He's in his third year now. Lions had 8 penalties in that game. Green Bay only had 4, but the Lions did decline 2 penalties, so it was really 8-6 in that game. Um, Useless trivia about him. He played quarterback at Bloomsburg, holds the single season completions record there, and played at Williamsport Area School District in Pennsylvania, whose mascot are the Millionaires.
Well, there's a mascot for you. I haven't heard that one before.
I had never heard that either. When I saw that, I was like, okay, that's interesting. The one penalty they call a lot is false starts. The most of anything that they call is false starts. They've called 27 in 12 games. But they're the third lowest in the league as far as how many penalties they've called for the season, 142. Ironically, Brad Allen's crew has called the least in the league by quite a bit, only 120 or 112 to 127 for the second place one, which is Land Clark. So in comparison, Alex Moore's crew has called already 200 over 200 penalties. So
Wow.
142 Allen X crew is not called a ton.
All right. Well, let's hope they stay minimal. All right. Well, let's talk about what's it going to take for the Lions to win. I think it starts with the offensive line, right? And, Coyote Awashika was out, so Tristan Colon stepped in. Miles Frazier got some reps at left guard. And even though Colon struggled early, we saw they rotated back and forth throughout. Colon was moving and pulling and blocking on one of those touchdown runs. I think the offensive line needs to do as well as it did overall against Dallas to help them create an effective run game. I think it's going to come down to third downs. The Lions need to pick up their third downs and stop the Rams on some third downs. And if you want a cherry on top of the sundae, get a turnover or two. And so that's what I think it's going to take. And so we'll say that. Coach, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the offensive line wise, we can't, if we have a mistake, it's got to be just one, not two. I think that's a lot of times when a communication thing, two guys screwed up, not just one guy here, one guy there, and not in a critical situation. So I think the offensive line is to establish the run, to eat up the clock. I think we have to steal two possessions. Okay, I'm going to tell you that we have to steal two possessions. And it could be two turnovers, it could be a fake, it could be a block punt, could be something, but we have to somehow steal. We have to steal two possessions because we can get into a track meet with these guys. If our offense is on and their offense on, it's who's got the ball last. And then our defense has to not give up any big splash plays. Special teams will beat them on that. I'm not worried about that.
All right, James, how about you? What are some of your prediction? No, not predictions yet. What's it going to take for the Lions to win?
Yeah, like Jerry said, I think the Lions have to win special teams, but I think that's the one area that they're favored at. If they can kind of just play even in the other two and win special teams, then it's close. But they have to. I think they have to get some turnovers. They have to get some fourth down stops or something like that to tilt it in their favor.
All right, let's look at predictions. And what do you predict here, Coach?
I predict a shootout, but we're gonna have the ball last and win it. I don't want to say win it, but we're gonna be in a position to win the game, and I think that's gonna turn out because we're out there. We're down 7-0 right now because it's an away game, even though they don't fill up the stands very well. And then again, I think the turnover, we're gonna win the turnover battle.
All right. I'm going to predict that Monty and Gibbs are heavily involved in this game. As they're heavily involved and successful, that really increases our chances of winning. And then here's a prediction, maybe hope. I think Stafford throws an interception if he's getting pressured. We know Stafford is very good and very accurate and doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but we do know, when does he make mistakes, guys? When he's under pressure. That's when he throws those pick sixes. I'm not saying a pick six, but if you can get pressure on him and get him flustered, that is the time you could get a turnover. So that's going to be a prediction there if we can get that. James?
I think one of the Lions starting linebackers gets an interception in this game. Anzalone, Barnes, Campbell, one of those guys is going to pick Stafford off. We've seen it in history. He kind of loses track of linebackers and floating back in coverage, and just tries to gun it in there to a receiver, and just forgets that there are other guys in between.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I got one more prediction, guys. I'm going to Tom Kennedy prediction here. James brought up where, maybe it was James, maybe it was Coach. One of you guys brought up that maybe the Rams are a little vulnerable with special teams. So Kennedy's longest kickoff is 42 yards, kickoff return, as long as punt return is 21 yards. I think he's going to break one of those records in this game. I think he's going to extend one a little bit longer. So there's a prediction for you.
I like it.
All right. And let's move to final thoughts here. Coach, what do you got for final thoughts?
Just looking forward to it. Another one of the big games. But the most I'm looking forward to is, where are we? Are we fully back? We've been win, lose, and let's see if this is part of that 1-0. But we're going to call this 1-0 stack this week. 1-0 stack this week.
All right. I like that 1-0 stack. I'm wondering the same thing, is can we get back-to-back wins for the first time since October 5th? Okay. And, this is a game the Lions aren't supposed to win, but you talked about 1-0 stack, Coach. The desserts at Billy Sims Barbecue are called stackers. I'm not making this up. They are called stackers. I knew this, and I'm going to get one of those.
Thank you.
When we go there, we're going to get a stacker. And hopefully we're not the only one stacking when it comes to the Pittsburgh game. So we got to start here with the Rams and stack this thing up. But this is a game the Lions aren't supposed to win. And a lot of national folks are going to change their tune, and this will become a game changer if the Lions do win this one. So this weekend, I've said don't pay attention to the stats, but after this weekend, I think you get a lot more clarity on everything. Lions, Bears, and Packers outcomes especially. We see how all those games go. There'll be 3 games less. I know every time you've got fewer games, there's more clarity, but there's a lot happening this week, and this is a game that really matters. So, James, you're going to get the last words here, sir. What do you got for us?
Nobody loves being an underdog like Dan Campbell.
There you go.
All right. Then
Just simple. He's going to have them motivated. He's going to have them pumped up because when everybody's saying the Lions can't win, Dan Campbell's going to tell his guys, you go out there and win and prove everybody wrong.
So you're saying we've got everybody right where we want them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Coach, James, thank you guys so much. You guys, awesome insights, awesome conversation. Shout out to Roaster Jack Coffee Company. Roasted incredible beans since 99. Visit roasterjack.com. Use the code LIONS. You get 20% off your next order. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Please tell your friends and family about the show. Find us on social media, as well as all major streaming platforms. Check out more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com, as well as the Traverse City Record Eagle. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.